Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Till Mets Do Us Part here on the Chop Sports Network. You can find this podcast wherever it is you listen to your podcast. Doesn't matter if it's Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, all of those places and more. Remember to click subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And speaking of subscribing, you can now check us out on our YouTube channel. The episodes drop the same day, so if you want to watch us instead of listening to us, or in addition to, whatever, it is all up to you. The world is your oyster. Although this week, Ibby, I might not recommend watching because I'm a little under the weather. I don't feel great. I feel like I don't look great. This is John Sapanaro out in Los Angeles. Matt Ibby Ibanez back in New Jersey. Ibby, how you feeling though?
I'm feeling pretty good, John. I mean, it's unfortunate that you're not feeling that great, but I'm still, I get where you're coming from. Burning both ends sometimes, it catches up to you, and if it makes you feeling better, I was battling my allergies all day, so hopefully I come across not sounding as congested as we record. But I think the good thing about this recording is the fact that we get to talk about our red hot New York Metropolitans, and I'm excited to talk about it with you today.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, honestly, that's the thing I've been looking forward to most today, apart from the game, which just ended. We're recording this on Wednesday, as we always do. It's been about 30 minutes or 25 minutes or so since the game ended. Look, the Mets swept the homestand. They went into the homestand having not swept any teams, and all they do is sweep the Phillies and then come back and sweep the very, 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 very lowly Nationals before coming out this way for what should be a tough West Coast trip. But I say tough with air quotes, Ibby, because, I saw something today. I don't know if it was Joe DeMayo who posted it, but like the bottom line is these teams out West should be as worried about playing the Mets as the Mets are about playing any of them. The Mets are one of the hottest teams in baseball. I know they've beaten up on some bad teams or some teams that aren't playing well, as is the case with Philadelphia, but that's what good teams are supposed to do. Yep. And the Mets are doing it in a lot of different ways. The Mets have like the best record in baseball, essentially. I mean, if you look at winning percentage, it might be a little bit off there from the Yankees or the Dodgers, but they have one of the top 3 best records in baseball, getting a combined 8 starts from Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, all of which delivered by Scherzer before the oblique injury. So everything that they're doing, you have to just feel positive about it. Ibby, I don't care about the June swoon. I don't care about the fact that they're coming out here to play 3 good teams, although one that's kind of stuck, again, not being able to get out of their own way in Anaheim. The Mets are a good team. The Mets are a team that other teams need to circle on the calendar, and so they're doing it in a lot of different ways. They're doing it with Lindor. They're doing it with Alonso. They're doing it with good pitching, Diaz, Guillorme, McNeil. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and the Mets are really, really, really good.
I'm a little upset that you forgot to mention Tomas Nido right there. Our guy just went off for 4 hits and 4 RBIs, just putting a nail in the Nats' coffin there. But to continue your point, and we talked about this last week as well, and I was saying how, I felt that people were almost sleeping on the Mets offense because I've always felt that people just didn't really look up and down the lineup and say, like, this is a star-studded lineup. And I'm coming right off the bat with a stat, as always, from Matthew Brownstein, because this is a good one. Most runs scored by the Mets in a single month. Okay. 172, that was in June of 1990. 168, that was August of 2015, which we all remember as the Yoenis Cespedes. And 168 as well in May of 2022. So, I saw some people saying that it kind of snuck up on them, knowing that the Mets scored that many runs this month. Obviously, the last couple of days, they've really poured it on against a bad team. But that's what good teams are supposed to do, like you said. And I think the big thing that people keep on harping on is the fact that they're saying, oh, they're going to go out West. Now is the true test. It's like, look, like you just said, I know they're beating up on bad teams, but if they were losing these games, you'd be ripping them for not beating them. But now they're beating these teams, and now you're saying, oh, they're bad teams and your division stinks. It's like, you can't have it both ways. This is a good team. They're going out West. And yes, do I expect this to be much more competitive baseball and tougher than what they faced over the last 6 games? 100%. We're facing legit teams. I mean, the fact that I just watched whoever the hell's playing left field for the Nats dive and completely miss that ball on Nido. It rolls to the wall. He basically looks up and turns out like a little leaguer, looks at it and says, let the center fielder get it. And then he gets it. And everyone's just running around the bases like it's no big deal. And the fact that they've dropped whatever it was, 20 plus runs over the last couple of games. But yeah, look, it's going to be a lot more difficult against a team like the Dodgers, since that's what's coming up. And going out on the West Coast is always a trip for the Mets. But I'm confident. And I think that's what a lot of Mets fans are finally doing. And that's what we talked about a couple episodes ago. And that was just saying how it's okay to believe in this team and it's okay to be confident because of the talent that's here. It's really showing out. I love everything that I'm seeing specifically from the offense. And hey, shout out to the pitching too. Carlos Carrasco having a solid game today with his dad in the stands. How about Trevor Williams? His last three starts, he hasn't been that bad. Like things are starting to come together. Obviously, we want to see those other pitchers come back, and in time that they will. But yeah, this is a very, very good team.
It's a very, very good team. And look, none of these teams are infallible. The Dodgers have lost, 2 games in a row to the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Dodgers, I believe, got swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks at one point earlier in the season. These teams are all going to lose games. I think sometimes with the Mets, and I don't want to make this episode about this because the last 2 or 3 episodes that we've done have been about this, but Met fans are always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so with the Mets, it's like, oh, look at David Peterson, or, oh, look, Trevor Williams has a 4 ERA. It's like, guys, not every person that comes here is going to contribute at an elite level. Trevor Williams has been better than he's been bad the entire time that he's been here. Coming over in the trade with Javi Baez last year, he was a good piece. And so far this year, apart from, 1 or 2 outings, he's been very good. But when you pitch sporadic innings, your ERA is going to blow up and it's going to make it look like you're a terrible pitcher. Bottom line is, Trevor Williams is not a terrible pitcher. If he's the 8th starter that you have or the 7th starter that you have, you're in good shape. And that's what he is for the Mets. So, I just want people to realize sometimes the contributions, it's like you and I talked about 2 episodes ago, the expectations change a little bit when DeGrom is on the shelf and then Scherzer gets hurt. I'm not saying you throw away everything the Mets have done. I'm just saying you have to look at the team as it's currently constructed. You can't look at the team through fantasy goggles and say, oh, well, if everybody was healthy, blank, or if this blank, or if that blank. It's like you can only go out there with the guys that you have on the field, and the guys that they have on the field, from Tomas Nido to Nick Plummer to Luis Guillorme to Trevor Williams, they've all stepped up. David Peterson, to an extent, they've all stepped up and done exactly what you would need them to do in filling in admirably for the people that aren't there. And in some cases, they've really put themselves in a position where you go, wow, did the Mets find something? And that's why I want to turn the page a little bit and talk about Luis Guillorme. And I'll let him be the catalyst for this, because Buck Showalter said something really interesting. He said, you see these guys, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically you don't want to write off what you think they are, because guys can get a lot better when they're 27, 28, 29 years old. And you could see that table is starting to turn for Luis Guillorme a little bit. And look, I don't know if anybody thought he could be this kind of player offensively. I'm not sure if he even is this kind of player offensively. But what Luis Guillorme has proven to be now at this point over his Mets career is a very, very, very serviceable major league player who can contribute in a myriad of ways. And I find it frustrating sometimes that people want to wait out guys like Conforto because of the pedigree. They want to wait out guys like Dom Smith, who we'll talk about later. They get butthurt because Travis d'Arnaud, after getting 6 years of chances, goes somewhere else and finally figures it out. But when you got a guy in front of you literally figuring it out in Luis Guillorme, you go, but he's Guillorme, it's like, no, this is what you want. This is the kind of stuff that you want. Luis Guillorme has been absolutely fantastic. He hit like almost 500 for the entire month of May. This guy's been on fire, and we already know what he can do defensively. We saw it in that game 2 nights ago.
Yeah, and I'm going to come in with a couple of stats for Guillorme in a second. But yeah, I think what you said really sums it up, and that's fans only, a lot of times they see the pedigree, they see prospects, and obviously you could be a prospect hugger or not, but a lot of times you think that, when a person has that pedigree, that they're going to be this superstar. And I've always felt that Mets fans in particular are very, near and dear when it comes to prospects, because they like the homegrown aspect. But yeah, like, even though he doesn't have the pedigree of a Michael Conforto or Travis d'Arnaud, like you said, like, he is figuring it out. And I want to give credit, because I want to say it was, I want to say it was Michael Barron like years ago on Twitter. I remember him talking about Luis Guillorme and saying that he was a good player. And this was around the time that Guillorme was getting a lot of, back and forth in terms of being brought up and put back down. Like, he was really hammering home the fact that he was a good ball player. And at the time, I can admit and be honest with myself and say, I didn't see it because I guess it's because I wasn't seeing enough of Guillorme getting an opportunity like he is now. And like you said, also, when you're older, you figure things out, you get a little bit better, you get a little bit more seasoning, and then things just fall into place. Some guys don't hit it until they're in their 30s, and then it's a short period of time where they have this success. Sometimes that's what happens. But to really hammer home the month that he had, shout out again to Matthew Brownstein, who I'm going to really try to get on this show because I think the stats that he puts out there are phenomenal. Luis Guillorme finished the month of May with a .477 on-base percentage. That's the highest on-base percentage by a Mets player in a single month since David Wright. But here is the overall stats for Guillorme in the month of May. He was 24 out of 58, 21 runs scored, 3 doubles, 1 home run, 6 RBIs, 7 walks, 7 strikeouts, 1 stolen bag. His slash line was 414, 477, 517 with a weighted runs created plus of 191. The guy was on fire. And I know everyone is getting like caught up in saying, oh, playing time, this and that, once everything's healthy. It's like, I don't care. You play the hot hand. This guy is putting the ball in play. He's been a catalyst for this offense since it's become as hot as it's become. Let the guy play. Luis Guillorme, I love you.
Yeah. And, look, I just want to clarify something, too, because there's not a lot of Met fans out there. Like, Guillorme has, like, a whole rooting section at Citi Field.
Oh, of course,
I'm not saying that people don't appreciate what he's done, because most Met fans do. And it goes back to everything you were saying about how, people love the homegrown aspect, and that's what Guillorme is. I guess what I'm trying to say is, or what I was trying to say in the last point, was that not everybody bursts on the scene with a incredible amount of pedigree the way Conforto did.
Right.
And at the flip side, not everybody comes out of nowhere and becomes a superstar the way DeGrom did. Mm-hmm. Sometimes guys come up and they just are really good ball players. That's it. Like, they'll never make an all-star team. Guillorme is the kind of player, like, he might win a Gold Glove if he gets enough opportunities to actually play a position. Maybe this season is that year. Who knows? But, you're not going to see guys with a ton of hardware. You're just going to look back and, 10, 12 years later go, man, that guy was damn good. That guy was good. Remember Guillorme? Yeah. Remember all the contributions Guillorme had? So I guess that's all I'm trying to say is for Met fans to just keep it in perspective that some of these guys burst on the scenes. They have all the pedigree in the world, and you want to give them chance after chance. Some guys come literally out of nowhere, like Jacob deGrom. He's the perfect example, and become an absolute superstar. But there's so many people that fill right in the middle, and that's what Guillorme is. And if that's all he ever is, if this is the best month that Luis Guillorme ever produces as a major leaguer, that's still good enough, because he's still a major league player who can contribute in a whole bunch of ways. And I guess that's really what I wanted to solidify as I make this point about Guillorme, because that's what you want to see. When guys get hurt, when guys go down, people like Tomas Nido come up and have 4 for 4, 4 RBIs like he did today. That's what you want to see. You want to see these contributions sprinkled throughout. And when you build a team, we just watched, I think, the worst constructed baseball team I have ever seen in my lifetime for the past 3 days. We watched the Philadelphia Phillies come in here. I mean, that team is built so poorly. I think the Mets beat them and swept them based on roster construction alone, AB. When you look at all the things the Mets do right versus all the things the Philadelphia Phillies do wrong, it doesn't matter. Bryce Harper might be the best player on the field. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter.
I was having a conversation with some friends over Memorial Day weekend talking about the Mets and Phillies series, and we were talking about the Phils and how terrible they were on defense. And I agree with you that the way that they're constructed is just awful. And they were talking about how, Girardi might get fired. I was like, what? I'm not really going to put it at him too much because of, what he's did. It's not his fault that he doesn't have any defense or a bullpen. But the main thing that I thought was, excuse me, one of the main things I thought was interesting about it was Actually, I lost my train of thought. Damn. I forgot.
That happens. Sometimes you
I don't know
cough,
where I was
and you
going.
just throw yourself out.
I don't know where I was going.
I
No,
agree with you, though.
Phillies stink. Yeah, you guys say something. I'll figure it.
There's so much nonsense about Girardi. Look, do I think Girardi's done a great job with this roster? I don't think so. But I think it's more about roster construction. It's more on the GM than it is on him. Exactly. Absolutely, it has to be.
And you said it right there, the GM. The fact that this team, or that team was like seconds away based off of what was being reported towards like a soft rebuild, and then Dombrowski comes in and he convinced them to spend money, and they start throwing all this cash around to these guys. It was very much square peg, round hole. It's just like these things don't work. It's like, oh, but they're getting a DH. It's like, okay, but you still have to have Castellanos or Schwarber and these guys in the outfield. It's not going to work. And that's what we saw really play out in front of us. Because I mean, there were things I was watching. I was like, these are like plays that I watch my middle school kids do. Like, this is bad defense. This is not professional baseball. And then I'm watching the Nats today too. Like what they were rolling out in the outfield. I was like, what am I watching? Like this is what a good team like the Mets are supposed to do. You take the advantages that are given to you. You beat up on these teams. You get your wins and you get the hell out of there. And that's basically what it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, with the Nationals, it's like I almost don't even want to dump on them because they're a team that basically said they're not going to be competitive this year. That was their goal. Right. They went into the year saying, "Hey, we're gonna reset a little bit." Now, I don't think they expect it to be this bad. They still have Juan Soto. I think they, expect to be a little bit better when Strasburg comes back. They'll pitch a bit better, things like that. I don't think they expect it to be as bad as they are, but they're clearly a team in transition. Right. For Philly, they're a team that was like, no, we're going to go for it. And honestly, I mean, it couldn't have happened to a nicer group of people because I hate the Phillies, so whatever. But it reminds me of some of the things that the Mets have tried to do under the Wilpon ownership. Now, granted, look, the Wilpon Mets would never have spent the money that the Phillies spent to bring in Bryce Harper and then Kyle Schwarber and then Nick Castellanos. So in that sense, they are not even playing in the same stratosphere. However, the thought process of bringing in Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, and Nick Castellanos is very much a Jeff Wilpon, a Brodie Van Wagenen thought process where you're like, oh, and honestly, I know he's still here and I know he has a different role, but almost the Sandy Alderson thought process of forget about the defense. We'll figure it out. We'll hit home runs. Guys, defense matters. Preparedness matters. The way you run the bases matters. And we saw it on this homestand. We saw the Mets outplay two teams, one that they should be light years better than, the other that talent-wise, they're probably, I don't know, incrementally better than, especially without Jake, without Scherzer, little short in the bullpen when Drew Smith goes out for a couple days. The Phillies are not that far away talent-wise from the Mets if you look at them and you line them up roster for roster. But the ability to get everything out of that 26-man roster, that was the difference. The preparedness, running the bases, playing defense, doing the little things, having a third base coach, Jesus Christ, that knows what he's doing. Yes. Oh my God. Gary DiSarcina to Joey Cora is the move of the offseason. Forget about signing Max Scherzer. I don't care. We have a third base coach, Ibby, that knows when to send people and when to be aggressive. I mean, again, we go all the way back to the first series of the year. It was Alonso stumbling. He has not made a bad call yet at third base, Joey Cora. So this brain trust, and I can call them that because I actually do trust them, and I actually think they all have brains. From Buck Showalter to Billy Epler to Jeremy Hefner, Joey Cora, the whole bunch. I mean, you just see how prepared this team is day in and day out, and that's why they won 6 in a row. That's why they swept the homestand, and that's why, apart from the fact that they actually do have professional, major league quality players in that lineup and in that rotation and good depth, that's enough of a reason why they're winning than anything else, is because they're prepared to win games every day.
Yeah, it's this mentality that they've clearly really taken on of next man up and doing everything they can to just always stay in games, because this team, if anything, is a team where even if they're down, it's like you can't turn the TV off. And I'm going to bring something up with that in a minute. But I've been saying this for a long time now, ever since Buck got hired, and it was just this idea that, I feel like Buck has brought the game of quote unquote baseball, if you will, back to the Mets. And when I say that, just for anyone who doesn't know, is just talking about how this team isn't just home run or bust. This team is really hitting you to death. Like the fact that Mark Canha had 4 hits last night, and Nido has 4 hits today, and there's hit and runs, and there's bunting, and there's drag bunts, and there's stealing, and there's so many. And again, they're playing solid defense, and all those things that I was promised for all those years from the Will Punts. Oh, we're gonna be pitching and defense, speed, and they didn't have any of those things. And now I'm seeing this happen now, and all these things are coming together. And Starling Marte's on fire, and Pete and Frankie, like everything is just all coming together, and it's awesome to see. And I don't know about you. I don't know what your feelings were. Actually, I kind of have some of your feelings, because I was seeing you on Twitter a little bit when this was happening, and I was talking with one of my buddies when the Sunday night game, and just how my one buddy was texting me back and forth. He's like, I'm going to bed. This team, they blew it. They're gonna lose. I'm hanging up. And I'm just like, dude, I'm telling you right now, they're down a run. They're gonna win this game. I'm telling you, they're going to win. And he's like, nah, look who's coming up. It's done. And then Nick freaking Plummer puts that ball in the seats. It was, I woke up my wife. She yelled at me. I did not care. It didn't matter. I was so pumped up. I was like, they're going to win this game now. They go on. They win the game. Your thought process, once Castellanos hits the home run, they're down 4-3. Your thought process, knowing that there's 6 outs left.
6 outs left. I thought they'd win the game. If the Castellanos home run came an inning later and they only had 3 outs to play with and that stuff, I'd say, you know what? That's tough, because that's a back-breaking moment at that point. 3 outs to go. I mean, look, we've seen the Mets do it before. I'm not saying I would have turned the game off, especially here on the West Coast. It's not that late. I'm just going to ride it out. But with 6 outs to go, I was like, no, they're going to win this game. They haven't used Jeff McNeil yet. Like, I think there's like an opportunity for them to win this game. Now, I didn't think they were going to win the game with Nick Plummer hitting the first pitch he saw to the goddamn moon. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like, what went further into space, that ball that Nick Plummer hit or Jeff Bezos? I have no idea what happened, but like, he crushed that ball. And look, we talked about when they brought him in as a depth piece, we talked about how he was going to be quality depth, how he was a guy who never really had like a full shot to be a part of a major league roster. And the Mets signed him. Now, obviously, he starts the year in AAA, but the Mets signed him to a major league deal. Right. He was guaranteed a roster spot on the 40-man when they signed him. And so they obviously saw something in him. And now I don't know if they saw this. I don't know if they saw the day he followed it up with. And I think the only reason why he sat today was because, lefty going and all that stuff and, try to get some other players into the mix. Right. But, I think Nick Plummer is the kind of, again, I said this all the time in the offseason and the beginning of the season about Aaron Loup, that good teams let Aaron Loup go and they find the next Aaron Loup. Right. Well, good teams, the Dodgers, they find Max Muncy. They found Chris Taylor, 2 middling guys, just hanging out in Oakland and Seattle, just kind of doing okay. Justin Turner, doing okay here with the Mets. The Dodgers found 3 guys who are as much a part of their success as Freeman, as Betts, as Bellinger, as Trey Turner. Take those 4 guys with all the pedigree in the world. Well, you know what? Will Smith, the other guys I mentioned are as much a part of the success and have been. And you look at a guy like Kike Hernandez, who isn't there anymore. Yep. He was a huge part of their success. Good teams find players like this. Now, look, would you love Nick Plummer to come here and be an all-star? Sure. Is he young enough where that's possible? Sure. But again, like I was saying with Luis Guillorme, if he's just a guy who can hit 260 and play 2 spots in the outfield plus DH and hit for power and, be here for 4 years contributing, that's enough. Yeah. Not every player needs to be a perennial all-star. And so this Nick Plummer moment, like, first of all, great for him, but man, this is what good teams do. And this is why it's different. There's a lot of reasons, Ibby, why it's different. It's the preparedness of the team, like we were just talking about. It's the professionalism from Cohen to Epler to Buck Showalter on down. It's the fact that they actually have a tangible, real lead. They actually have something that you can point to. I know the Mets were in first place for 100 days last year and they didn't make the playoff. It doesn't matter. The Mets had leads of like 3 games, 4 games, 2 games. It was the NL East last year was begging for someone to grab it by the horns. Eventually, it was the Braves. We just kept hoping that it would be the Mets because the Braves were just playing as poorly as the Mets were. It was a mediocre division through and through. Well, now it looks like everybody else is mediocre, and the Mets are world beaters. The Mets have an enormous lead. Right now, the Braves are up 2-0 on the Diamondbacks, but the Mets have a 11-game lead as it stands right now over the second place team. 11 games. It's June 1st.
I mean, I'm just staring at you right now, and it's wild that, like you said, it's June 1st, and there's an 11-game lead. And again, everyone always just points to the fact that everyone else stinks, but it's like I don't care. It's moments like this where you build something, so it gives you a little bit of a cushion if you happen to have a rough stretch. And yeah, for all we know, maybe this West Coast trip, maybe it's gonna be tough sledding. But if they come out of this and how many games are they out west for? 10?
10 games.
10 games. If they go 5-5, it's fine.
Maybe I was just gonna say the Mets could go 3-7, and I would be disappointed, but I'm not gonna be like, oh no, now what?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I saw a stat yesterday that said if the Mets go 500 the rest of the way, this is after last night's game, not today's. If the Mets went 500 from June 1 till the end of the season, they would win 90 games.
Yeah.
90.
Yeah.
That's why you build leads like this.
Yes.
You know, the old adage in baseball is that you can't win the division in April, but you can lose it.
Yes.
Well, you know what? When the Mets come out and they have an April and a May like they had, and they build a 10.5 game lead over second place, that matters because that allows you to go out west without your 2 best pitchers. And you know what? Whatever happens now out here, look, I'm going to go to probably 3 of these games minimum. Whatever, I want them to win. Look, I want the Mets to have a winning road trip.
Yeah.
I want them to be, like you said, at least 5-5. But if for some reason they're not, it doesn't mean that the sky is falling, Mets fans, because they have a 10.5 game lead. As of the moment that we're recording this, it's actually 11 because their game is over. And obviously the Braves and the D-backs are still playing. That's an enormous lead. Now, look, with 4 months of baseball left, is it insurmountable? No. But, I mean, look, the odds are, even Sal Licata said that the division is over. And that guy is and I'm not going far to say that. I'm just saying, Ibby, he's like the least Mets fan out there who's always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Yeah. So, when guys like that who are so negative are coming out and saying, like, I don't know, man, I think they're in pretty good shape or better, that's how you know this is different. It's just a different year. We thought we were going to see it last year. A little bit of a transition. Still had the Wilpon stank on it. This is the Steve Cohen Mets right now. We're watching it. Enjoy it. Breathe it in. Just everything you have to do. Go to games. If you live out on the West Coast, go to games. Wherever the Mets find themselves, if you had to move to Seattle, go to those games and enjoy this run because the Mets are already having a special season, and I think that there's no reason why it won't continue.
Yeah, and the main reason why I wanted to know your reaction to the Nick Plummer thing before, and the fact that you said that I thought they were going to win, and I think that that's what I've been trying to really hammer home these last couple episodes of the building and accepting of confidence as a Mets fan. It's like I can say with 100% conviction right now, this is hands down the most confident I have ever been as a Mets fan. And this is I've seen a couple of good teams like 06 and 2000 and to a lesser extent, like when they got really hot in 15. But, it's just, I see a team that, and I think Buck's a part of it too. I just see a team that I know, like I can't really see for lack of a better term, I can't really see a June swoon. Like I can't see them going to like a complete tailspin, minus everybody getting hurt or whatever. But the fact that this team it's next man up, it's hitting you to death, it's doing the little things, it's picking the next guy up. It's like you're seeing not only the confidence on the field, but it's pouring out into the stands as well. And it's really just, it's permeating, and it's really building. And I think that, I know people are afraid to say the word special. Like I saw Lori Rubinson talking last night on Twitter saying how she's not really using the word special yet, but, and I get that because it still is early, but this has the makings of something that can be special. And I think that they have the proper people in place to make sure that they can continue carrying it on the field. And of course, when they need to make something happen, to add to it, to make sure that they can push them even further towards their ultimate goal, we have a front office that'll do that as well.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to put it. And look, the Mets are, they're in uncharted territory for a lot of us. People that are in, your age range, my age range, and a little bit older than us, and definitely a little bit younger than us. They've never seen any kind of sustained level of success from the Mets. But I think the Mets are finally set up to show that sustained level of success. I stand by the fact that the 06 team was the best offensive team I've ever seen in my lifetime. Now, but that 06 team also, look, they got good years out of guys, but that 06 team was anchored by an older Pedro Martinez, an older El Duque Hernandez, an unproven John Maine, an erratic Ali Perez. That was our starting rotation. Yeah. This starting rotation at some point in the next 4 weeks is going to get back Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. We're doing all of this without those two guys.
Also, shout out Tyler McGill's throwing off the mound. He is.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So we're going to get back Tyler McGill. We're going to get back Jacob deGrom. We're going to get back Max Scherzer. We're going to add them to Cookie Carrasco, who's been great. We're going to add them to Taijuan Walker, who's been very good. Then you can slide Trevor Williams back into the long man role. He'll be able to do his thing in that spot. And we have a top 3 closer at the back end. This team, from a pitching standpoint, is built better than the 06 team was.
Light years. It's not even close. It's not even close.
Now, and what's scary, Ibby, is that the offense is getting close. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
Because I still stand by that the 06 team, the 06 team had prime Reyes, followed by prime LaDuca, followed by prime Beltran, followed by prime Delgado. David Wright was hitting 5th, and Cliff Floyd was hitting 6th when healthy.
Loaded.
That is a loaded Jose Valentin. And I know he was a guy who kind of came back as a lightning in the bottle kind of player for us, but he had 2 really good years for us. He was hitting 8th, Ibby, 8th. Yeah. Every day he was hitting 8th. That's how deep that lineup was. But this lineup is approaching that, and our pitching is so much better. And we don't have to deal with the Wilpons. So if we have to go spend and take on a high-priced relief pitcher to set up in the 8th inning, we're going to go get him. If we have to go trade for a DH who's making a lot of money, we're going to go get him. There is nothing that is standing in the way of this team. And that's why I get it. I don't want to use the word special either, I guess. But that's why it can be. Because we're that close. We're that close. It's already been amazing, and there's nothing that's the obvious problem. That's the obvious problem on the field, or that's the obvious problem on the field, and we're not going to address it because the owners won't do it. Right. There is no stumbling block like that for this team. So I don't know. I think if you're not excited, Met fans, and I think we're finally starting to see it turn, because Met fans are getting really, really excited. We've been
and just hearing
Met fans to enjoy it.
Yeah, and just the fact that I know it was a nice weekend, and obviously people are getting out to the stadium more and more as the weather turns. But listening to these crowds, man, this feels to me like that playoff atmosphere that I've been dying to have at Citi Field for the longest time. These crowds are hot, man. This crowd is hot. They are hungry. They want the greatness that they've been wanting for so long, and they think that they might have something in front of them, and they are coming out in droves, and they're showing their support. You're hearing the roar of the crowd, and it's awesome to see.
It is. Let's take a break right there. We have some other stuff we have to talk about, of course, not the least of which the greatness, and I underline and put that in bold and italics and red, of Francisco Lindor, and of course the stuff that happened with Dom Smith. So we have a lot of stuff to get into in the second half. This is John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez, till Mets do his part on the Chop Sports Network. We'll be right back. Yo, welcome back to Till Mets Do His Part here on the Chop Sports Network. As always, it is John Sapanaro and Matt Ibby Ibanez talking all the good, the bad, and everything in between with our New York Mets. But right now, Ibby, there is not a lot of bad to discuss. And so much so that I want to save the thing that's even a touch bad till a little bit further in the show, and that is the Dom Smith situation. I don't even think that it's bad. I have a positive take on it, and I'm gonna present it to you that way, but I want to save that towards the end. I want to dedicate the beginning of the second half of this show to the end of people being able to claim that Francisco Lindor is not good. It is over. It is done with. It is official. It is June 1st. 2022. You've got the Lindor. I think that's the gnome bobblehead right there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, it is over. The guy is third. He is 1 RBI away from second in the league behind Alonso. The guy, for a little while this year, the people who wanted to hate on him still had some numbers they could argue. Well, he's hitting 230. Well, he doesn't have the power. Well, he doesn't have, and you and I always defended him regardless. But now, Ibby, the numbers are not lying. He is now only the second Met in the history of the franchise to have an RBI in 10 straight games, joining Hall of Famer Mike Piazza. And over that stretch, he has put up 20 RBI in 10 games. The guy is clutch. The guy is a superstar. And I'm going to say it right here, right now. He is worth every dollar of the $341 million that we extended to him. And anybody who thinks otherwise is wrong. And I'm not going to even argue with people anymore about it because they're just wrong.
Every single one of those Lindorks, I'm talking to you. If you bash the guy or not, you can kiss my ass. The guy is special, okay? The fact of the matter that we finally have, as a team, we have a superstar, a legit superstar, finally standing in that box confident. Now, every single Met fan sees that guy step in the box, and confidence should be exuding from you, whether you're at the stadium, whether you're sitting on your couch, doesn't matter. The guy is on fire, okay? He is the driving force for this team right now. Like you said, he's second behind Alonso when it comes to RBIs. People were complaining, the batting average. I'm pretty sure, I don't have the stats in front of me, which isn't usually what I do, but I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm pretty sure, and I'll have to double check, but over the last, whatever it might be, 20 games or so, he has risen his batting average that everyone wants to complain about upwards of like 40 points. Because he was batting like 220 or whatever, and now he's up to 260, 265 or whatever it is. But exactly. it's always the batting average. The guy is on another level right now. Like you said, 10 RBIs, an RBI in at least 1 RBI in 10 straight games, has the record or ties the record with Piazza. There is no reason, and I love the fact that you don't see anything anymore. They're all back in their caves. They're waiting for the next offer to try and come out. They can stay in their caves, get lost, whether it's Frank, whoever the hell it is. I don't care anymore. I am not talking to any of these people because there is no need to. Superstar, well worth every freaking penny that he gets to cash in on this contract.
And I hope, and I love Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza has the record for most consecutive games in Mets history with an RBI. With he has 10, but he also did in 15 straight games. I want Lindor to beat that record. I want Lindor to keep going on a tear. I want to see him beat the record that Mike Piazza has, because I just want there to be more reasons for people to be wrong, because this guy has been treated so unfairly from the moment that he got here. Everybody welcomed Cespedes in with open arms. Now, I understand Cespedes went on an absolute tear. He was one of the best mid-season trade acquisitions in baseball history, not just for the Mets, just overall, because the guy went on an absolute tear. But everybody apologized for Cespedes. And I like Cespedes. I was a Cespedes fan. I wanted them to re-sign him after they traded for him. I wanted them to re-sign him again. I thought they needed to. I thought he was too good and too important to this team. And even after he had the whole incident with stepping in the hole and all that nonsense and the wild boar, I was still like, I think this guy could probably hit. And then ultimately, he left us basically at the altar in the middle of the night. And the Cespedes saga ended in a very, very strange way. But I say all of that because Cespedes got all this praise, despite the fact he came in as a guy with a lot of baggage and left as a guy with a lot of baggage. Lindor came in as the guy that you would want to build your franchise around. And he has proven to be exactly that. The only stumbling block was that in his first year with this team, he did not have a great season. He did not have a representative Francisco Lindor season. He did not have a season that lived up to the contract extension that we gave him before the year started. Okay, he's not the first person to ever come to New York and do that. Everybody always makes the comparisons to Beltran, and that's a really good one. It's a really fair one. Beltran still to this date is the best free agent signing the Mets have ever made. Period. End of story. So you could only hope that Lindor is going to be that good. And look, I know that projected stats are just that. They're projected stats, Ibby. Right now, Lindor is on a pace to knock in 126 runs. He has never in his career knocked in over 100 runs. Now, obviously, a lot of that has to do with the team that you play on and all that, but he's been in the middle of these lineups going back to his Cleveland days. He is on pace to knock in 126. He has 43 right now on June 1st. He didn't get his 40th RBI until September of last year. Yeah. He's going to get 100 RBIs by accident. Okay? He's going to fall out of bed into 100 RBIs. So everybody needs to stop with the Lindor hate. It was unwarranted to begin with, and now it is especially. You just sound like a bunch of idiots. You sound like you don't know baseball.
I really think that when it comes to Lindor, it could be any player, but I really feel like the human element, fans kind of really lose the human element and everything. What I mean by that is, if you think of yourself, person listening, whoever, or John, or even myself, it's like if you worked in one place for 10 years. And you're comfortable there, everybody knows you. Yeah, you come in, it's just like it's no big deal. You dominate the job that you're doing, and then you leave, and then you go somewhere else, and then that you're trying to get acclimated, you're trying to get normalize yourself with your new surroundings and meeting new people. It's just like some of that stuff takes time, and that's the human element that fans really lose, in my opinion, because they just think that a pro athlete is a robot, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and I think that. We saw him work through some stuff. He had some moments last year. Was it great? No, it wasn't. But still, it was far from. I'll say it was a lot better than any other shortstop that we had the previous 2 decades or whatever. But he comes in now. He's confident. Everything is just oozing out of him. The charisma. He's a superstar. He's everything a baseball player should want to be in terms of the smile, in terms of the energy, everything that he brings. If he's not here, this team isn't doing what it's doing right now, and I'm confident when I say that because he is that much of a catalyst. So, Francisco, I'm with you. John's with you. We've been with you the entire time, and we are saying rest in peace, or I should say rest in piss, to the Lindors. Goodbye.
Yeah, because that's what they deserve. And there's been a lot of people who said it right from the jump. Oh, he can't play in New York. I'm worried he can't play in New York. Guys, give the guy a chance to get acclimated. Ibby, and that goes back to what we're saying and what Lori was saying when she was on the show about enjoying the ride. Look, I understand you want players to do well, and it's easier when they are. But when the guy signs a 10-year extension before his first year playing, and already people are like, I don't know if he can play here. You're setting yourself up for misery because he's not going anywhere. He signed a 10-year extension before the season started. He's not going anywhere. So you're only setting yourself up for misery, for frustration. And like I've said before on this show and on Twitter and in person to people, Met fans clamored forever to be players for Bryce Harper, for Manny Machado, for Francisco Lindor, for the top end of the free agent market. And we were always so upset. Well, to acquire stars and to keep stars, you have to pay, and sometimes you have to overpay. And I say this with all sincerity because it doesn't matter. I'm not spending the money. It's not my money. It does not matter to me. Francisco Lindor's contract is completely and entirely irrelevant. The only way it ever becomes relevant is if the person forgets how to play baseball, i.e. Jason Bay, Jacoby Ellsbury, Chris Davis in Baltimore. If you become a player that is so bad they have to worry about, oh my God, how can we fit this person into the lineup on a daily basis, then you can talk about the contract. Other than that, stars get paid. Look, Juan Soto's having a bad year by Juan Soto standards. He's probably still going to sign a $500 million contract at some point in the next year or two. So it doesn't matter, guys. Is he going to be worth $500 million? Probably not. Probably not. But is he going to be worth some team acquiring him and having him be that kind of player? Absolutely. So I don't understand what people want. I don't understand what people look for. And like you said, you've always said it with Lindor, and it's spot on. For some reason, people forget the human element, or they don't want to make excuses. Everybody wants to talk about J.D. Davis's hard hit rate. Nobody wants to talk about peripheral stats with Francisco Lindor. Or they want to talk about the fact that in cold weather, in bitter conditions, he had a couple bad games at shortstop where he wasn't. How has he looked since, Ibby? Does he look like a Gold Glove shortstop since,
Looks
I don't know,
good
the
to me,
beginning
John.
of May? Yeah. So, I mean, it's
good.
ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, they're all idiots because Lindor is great. Let's turn the page now and talk about Dom Smith in a shocking, not shocking move, Ibby. He gets optioned. And just your thoughts when you first saw the news on the ticker or on Twitter, however you saw it.
Well, it's crazy because I think the day prior, I was having a conversation with some people within our Facebook community, and somebody posted a really good question. And it was talking about Nick Plummer, and it was talking about how, is this something that might affect Dom? And I thought it was a good question, and there was a lot of people going back and forth on it. And I jumped in, and I was just like, look, what Nick Plummer's doing at the moment, it could be fleeting. It could be bad pitching. It could just be something that is very short-lived. But I said, at the moment, if Plummer continues to hit like he's been doing, and then you factor in JD playing better than Dom and Guillorme playing as hot as he is, it's just like, I was like, yeah, I think Dom is the odd man out here. And when I saw the news, I posted quickly again in there, and I basically said that this is the proper move for not only the Mets, but for Dom as well, because it's clear as day that a guy like Dom needs reps. It's getting to that point where it's like everyone likes to look back at a couple of years ago when he was the bench guy and he was doing his job there and this and that. But it's like it gets to a point where you need repetition. You want to get out there. You want to find a rhythm. Like, it's tough just being a pinch hitter. It's not easy. So, him going out there and being told basically, hey, you're going down to AAA. I looked at it as this is the right move because, number one, they need another arm for the West Coast trip. I thought that made sense. And him getting the reps is good for him and good for the Mets in the long run, because if he can get hot, he can come back up. He can get some more playing time, whether it's staying with the team or whether that's as a way to showcase himself to then go elsewhere to help us in another area. Overall, I think this is a win-win. I'm sure Dom's pissed off that he got sent down, but at the same time, I think he's probably happy that he's going to be playing every day.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is 100% accurate. And just to be fair, I said this on our Twitter account, and I'll reiterate it here for anybody who didn't see it. DFAing Cano at the time for Dom Smith essentially was the right move. Now, did Dom Smith save himself by having that big game the night before? He probably did. Yes. But you know what? That's how karma be sometimes, because all of a sudden here comes Nick Plummer, 2 big games, bye-bye Dom Smith. Right. That's how it goes. DFA-ing Cano was the right move at the time. And look, he's hitting like 150 for the Padres. He's going to get let go soon. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Cano's career is basically over. A great career, but it's going to be over. But those two things are separate, because DFA-ing Cano was the right move at the time. Sending Dom Smith down was the right move when they did it. They gave him more chances. They let Cano go so that he could have more at-bats. He has not hit a home run since last July, Ibby. That is a long time. It's almost a year. We are approaching the 1-year anniversary since Dom Smith hit a home run. He's a first baseman that is not going to get it done. Right. Now, I like Dom Smith as a player. I like Dom Smith maybe even more as a person. He seems like a great dude. I am not trying to kick him out the door, but he is very quickly, he's approaching, for me, he's approaching Travis d'Arnaud territory. Right. Where the Mets have given him chances. You can't sit here and say, what are the Mets doing? They're not playing Dom Smith. They've done everything, especially since he had gotten his weight issues under control and he got his sleep apnea under control. Even with Alonso becoming a star, bursting on the scenes, they have tried to find ways to play Dom Smith. And so it's not their fault. And look, I'm not saying you get rid of the guy. I'm not saying the guy doesn't have a role on this team either for some time in the future this season or beyond that. I'm just saying that he's now approaching, for me, an existence where if the Mets were to move on from him and he goes and does well somewhere else, you can't get mad about it, because they've given him time after time after opportunity after opportunity. They were even DHing Pete when Pete didn't want to DH for the sake of Dom Smith, which I've always thought was absurd, because Pete is excellent and Dom Smith has had 160-game sample of being good. Everything else other than that has been an underwhelming player. Pete Alonso is a superstar. So, I hate to compare the two, but I think it's best for all parties involved. And I think ultimately it shows that this team is the ultimate meritocracy. It doesn't matter how much money you're making, Cano. It doesn't matter where you were drafted, Dom Smith. It doesn't matter. If you're producing, you are going to play, and they will find a way to get you in the lineup. They've been playing McNeil in left to get Guillorme at bats. When Travis Jankowski had that little streak for a week where he was hot, they were finding ways to get him in the game, even if it was just an at bat at the end of every game. Buck Showalter going over to Canna and saying, hey, I know you're a good outfielder. I'm just trying to get Travis some burn out here. I'm not sitting you for Travis because I don't think that you're a good defensive player. I'm trying to keep him hot and keep him ready. It's things like that that really show me how this team is different. Nothing is going to get in the way. If you produce, you will play, period.
The best players are going to play. Cut and dry. That's it. If you are producing and you're doing well, you're going to find some time on the field. If you're not, then we're going to find someone that can. It's as simple as that. And that's the way any team should act at any level of the game, whether it's middle school, high school, college, pros, doesn't matter. That's the way it should always be. The best players are going to play. Cut and dry. When it comes to Dom Smith, the final thing that I'll say there is, look, I think that based off the things that we had seen in terms of the play, but also based off the things that we had heard from Dom, when it always seems like he was putting out comments or putting out quotes about saying how, hopefully I can play every day. And, maybe somebody will come get me so I can play every day. So it seems like maybe that was weighing on him too. I have no idea if the guy wants to be here or not, but I'm just saying that I think he's a competitor like anybody else. He wants to go out there and he wants to be playing every day, and he wants to be, potentially in the middle of somebody's lineup. And right now it's not happening because he's not hitting. And like we just said, the best players are going to be, finding time on the field. It's not there for him right now, but I think the best course of action was send him to AAA, let him get some playing time, let him play every day, let him try to find his stroke, bring him back up, see what he's got. And then, in my opinion, I think we're going to end up seeing Dom shipped out.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because those playing every day comments that were born out of the potential trade with the Padres, and it's funny because Paddock goes out and gets Tommy John surgery, so it looks bad. But meanwhile, you have Eric Hosmer producing at a clip way higher than Dom Smith. So you go like, I mean, would the Mets have been better off making that trade either way, regardless, considering that Dom Smith, is basically spare parts? What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that I think the main part that people always forget when it comes to that deal was the fact that it wasn't even to keep Hosmer.
Right.
Like Hosmer was going to be traded here, but then shipped elsewhere. So he was never going to put on a Met jersey. Automatically, Everyone always jumps on. It's like, oh, look, if we had Hosmer and just shipped up all the Dom stands, they wanted to keep him, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, Hosmer wasn't going to be here. You were going to have Paddock, you were going to have Pagan, and you were going to have whatever you were going to get back from anybody when it came to Hosmer. But the trade never made sense to anybody because if somebody wanted Eric Hosmer, they would have just taken him on. That was the whole. That's why it didn't make any sense. But to everyone thinking that Hosmer was going to be here, newsflash: he was never going to be here.
Yeah, I never bought into that. It's just kind of funny to see how the two careers of those two players just for this year have kind of went in completely different directions. Hosmer hasn't really been good since he signed with San Diego. Now that potential trade happens and he goes off and Dom kind of goes the other way when you would think, Hosmer's got the contract. Hosmer's got the World Series ring. He's got the pedigree. He's got all of it already. I'm not saying that you put it in cruise control, but he doesn't have anything to prove to anyone. No. He's already on a good team. He was probably going to wind up on another at least mediocre team the way the trade would have happened. Mm-hmm. But then it's funny to see Dom, who wants to play every day. And that's why I keep going back to that, because it's like, you know what, Ibby? Maybe not in the way that he wanted to, but if Dom was hitting, Dom would be playing every day for the Mets.
Yes.
That's what I think is that's the frustrating part to me about the comments that he made. And look, I get it. Ball players, competitors, people in entertainment, your ego, your competitive nature is what drives you. And Dom Smith is no different. So I don't hold those comments against him. I just think that they're misplaced because the Mets have shown, whether it's putting Dom in left, whether it's DHing Alonso, whether it's DHing Dom Smith, whatever it was, Dom was going to play basically every day. They would have found a way between left field, first base, and DH to play him and get him 500 at bats. The problem is that he's not hitting, and he looks terrible at the plate most nights. That's the problem. It's not that he can't play first base every day. It's that he can't hit right now. And so the Mets aren't going to play him every day, and no other team was going to acquire him and try to play him every day. It was not going to happen. The best place for him to go to play every day is in fucking Syracuse.
No, it's true. And look, I think, again, nobody wants to get sent down, specifically when you've been up for so long, but getting sent down, I think the fact that you get to play every day now, and you kind of get you allow yourself to get out of the spotlight of New York, like you said, go to Syracuse, hang out for a little bit, play every day, get some, maybe hit a couple home runs, hit a couple home runs in AAA, get your confidence back up, and then maybe it can carry over. Then
go to Dinosaur Barbecue, go to Funkin' Waffles. There's a lot of good restaurants in Syracuse.
Do what you got to do. That's it.
I will say this before we get out of here. We got a few minutes left to play with, and the Dom Smith stuff, I'm not trying to brush it aside. It's just the team is really good. He's not on the team right now, so he becomes largely irrelevant in this particular circumstance. The middle of the order with Lindor, Alonso, and most days McNeil batting fifth looks really, really solid. Mm-hmm. They're going to go out. They're going to play 10 games out here on the West Coast, Ibby. And so just, you can give me a prediction for number of wins or whatever if you want, but what are you looking for out of this 10-game stretch from the Mets? What do you want to see as like an abstract comment? Forget about wins and losses for a moment.
I want to see a team that, I'll put it this way. I want to see the team that I've been seeing over the last couple of days. But what I mean by that is I want to see a team that is going to potentially be down 4-3 against the Dodgers, because there's a difference when you're down 4-3 or 4-2 against the Dodgers as opposed to Philly. Like, I can say with confidence against Philly that, and that bullpen is like, I know that the Mets are going to come back and win this game. And then sure enough, bang, 20 minutes later, they come back and they win the game. Against the Dodgers, it's a different story because that is a better bullpen. It's a better team. Okay. It's a better team that can handle a situation like that as opposed to the Phillies. But I want to see the Mets, if they are down against a team like that, they can still win that game or fight from even look, I know there's no such thing as moral victories, in anything really when it comes to sports, but really if they go out there, and like I said, even if they did go 5-5 on this West Coast trip, but I see them going out there and fighting with the team as it is constructed right now, and they fight and they still win some games, but they lose some as well, knowing what we have on the back end that's still there to help us, towards the tail end of the year, whenever Jake and Max and McGill, they all come back, knowing that we're going to see these guys again at some point, that gives me a lot more confidence. So as long as they go out there and they continue to compete the way that they're competing, whether the wins, show up in the box score, irrelevant. If they go out there and they continue to work hard and prove that they belong on the same field as these top end teams, that's what I want to see. Because, John, we know it. We know exactly what's going to happen. If they go out there and they lose 3 or 4 to the Dodgers, the first thing that's going to be said on Monday morning is the Mets are pretenders. It's true, regardless of the fact that at that point they would be maybe 7 games up in the division. It wouldn't matter. They're going to say the Mets are pretenders. Yeah. They beat up on a bunch of bad teams. They go out there to face the Dodgers and they stink. That's exactly what's going to happen. And I don't want that to happen. So go out there, give me a split. I'll take this. I don't care. Give me the split against the Dodgers. That's fine. But that's what I want to see. I want to see a team that is going out there and competing against these top end teams just to prove the point to everybody else that they are for real.
I like that. I like that. Seeing the same team that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, seeing the same team that we've seen all season long. That's what I want to see. I want to see the team go out there and do what they've done and not be too small for the moment. Right. So if they go out there and they split 4-game set with the Dodgers and they lose the series to the San Diego Padres and then they win the series with the A's, that gets them to 5-5 on the trip. Something like that. I'm not going to complain about. That would be a great trip, and I think one game in either direction is also gravy. If they come out of here, it's a tough swing. If they come out of here 4-6, I'm not going to be mad. If they ever came out of here 6-4 or better, forget it. You know what I mean? Like, you go and you play these 3 teams consecutively on their home turf, flying west, no off day. It's not an easy task. And so I don't want to make excuses for them. I just want them. I agree with you. I want them to be the same team that they've been. It's the Dodgers. Listen, like I said, the Dodgers lost 2 games in a row to Pittsburgh. They got swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Craig Kimbrell looks like a shell of himself. They're a beatable team. Are they laden with stars? Sure. From Freddie Freeman to Mookie Betts to Cody Bellinger, the list goes on. Trey Turner. You know what? The Mets got Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor and Starling Marte and plenty of stars and Jeff McNeil. They got plenty of players in their own right. So I don't want to hear any excuses. That's what because I don't want to. You make a good point. I don't want to come back to that rhetoric of look at the Mets, pretenders. Yep. No, because a bad trip will erase some of the goodwill, not all of it, but it will erase some of the goodwill on a national perspective that the Mets have built up. And I think they owe it to themselves to not only keep that goodwill, but add to it, not lose from it.
Right. And just to add on to that, it's the BS talking out of both sides of their mouths. And when it comes to the media, and it's something that I hope I don't have to deal with, but it's like everyone assumed that they were going to go in the tank when Max went down. And they end up going 10-3 since he's gone down. And now, but no one says anything about that. But now if they go out west and they have a tough trip, then it would be like, oh, you see, Mets are down. It's like, well, wait a minute. They were just 10-3. I don't care who they were facing. The fact is, whenever somebody loses a big player, you can go in the tank and lose to bad teams. That happens to anybody in any sport. So the fact that the double speak, I fear, can potentially come out from that is what always frustrates me, because it's like, you said one thing one way, now you're saying it the other way. It's like, that's the stuff that I hate. But go out there, stay confident. John, bring the freaking energy when you go to these games. Bring the energy. I want our New York Mets to keep kicking ass, and I believe that they will. And that is a good thing, to finally say things with conviction and believing that this team can do well. Go out there and let's do some work.
Full disclosure, it happens at an unfortunate time. I live very close to Dodger Stadium, further away from Angel Stadium, and obviously further still from Petco Park down in San Diego. And the Mets are playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday here in Los Angeles, about 20 minutes away from where I live. And tomorrow night, I am on a red-eye flight to Boston.
God damn it, John.
Yeah, so I'm going to miss tomorrow. I'm going to miss Friday. I'm going to miss Saturday. But I am on the first flight out on Sunday morning, and my thought is I might go directly to Dodger Stadium for the game.
I like it.
So I might just come back and go to Dodger Stadium for Mets Dodgers, because honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to any of the games at Petco. It's such a pain. It's 3 hours one way.
Yeah.
And so, it's a 6-hour round trip just to go to a ball game is kind of a hectic proposition with my travel schedule. Mm-hmm. So, whereas Anaheim is, about 40 minutes and the Dodgers are about 20 minutes. So to be able to go to those other two is kind of like, that might be enough. We'll see how it goes. But I don't know. I was thinking about flying to San Francisco last week. Yeah. So, maybe I'll just fly to San Diego. It'd be like $20. Yeah. Anyway, this has been a lot of fun, man. I'm sorry. I apologize in advance, Ibby, for you having to stay up later. Apologize to your wife. You're probably going to wake her up a couple times watching some of these games. I don't like them either, man. I don't like them either. I want to watch baseball at like 4:30 in the afternoon.
You son of a bitch.
I don't want to watch it at 7:15. Like, that's gross. That's disgusting.
That's the norm over here. Come on.
No. I like this morning. I woke up 9:30. The Mets were on at 10 a.m. It was perfect. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. Yeah, I don't want I can have breakfast, I can watch the Met game, have some coffee, and then just have the whole day to myself. It's fantastic. Finding new and creative ways to make you feel shitty about living on the East Coast. That is my job. Ibby, this has been great. Before we get out of here, give me a prediction for the 10 games. What do you think?
Oh boy. So it's Dodgers first, then who?
Then San Diego, then Anaheim.
I'm going to say, look, me being positive, the way I feel about this team, I want to say they walk out with 6 wins, but I'll go conservative. I'll say 5-5. I'll go conservative. But I do believe 6 can be attainable. I do.
All right, I'm gonna then I'll be that guy because I don't want to pick the same number, so I'll say 6-4. Okay. I'll say 6-4 over the stretch because I think there's very easy math for them to get to 5-5, like we were just talking about, and so one game breaks your way, all of a sudden now you leave with a winning road trip, and I will take that every single time. So anyway, guys, this has been a fun episode. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez, Tilt Mets Do Us Part. You can get this podcast wherever it is you listen to your podcast: Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, all of those places, all courtesy of the Chop Sports Network. And of course, you can watch us now on our YouTube channel, which is simply Till Mets Do Us Part if you search it. And of course, follow us across all of our social platforms at Till Mets Do Us Part. We will see you next week, and we'll know at that point, Ibby, how close our projections are. If we have a chance, because it'll be kind of in the middle of the whole thing. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, we are out of here. We'll see you next week. Peace.